Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I have the privilege of being here with Mike Van Lente, the executive leader of global learning and development for Whole Foods Market. And I've also had a long history with Mike. And what made me think about him this Father's Day and for this series of Dads in Retail is I remember a while ago when he was at Pier 1, we both won't talk about how long ago it was, but I remember a meeting. And when I showed up, they go, "No, Mike's at the hospital expecting his first child." And I understand that child has just graduated from college. So that tells you how time flies, but that also shows how committed we've been to our retail careers. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to let you introduce yourself, but also tell us a little bit about your family and your children.
Well, hi, and thanks, Mary Beth, for the opportunity. I think this is a really interesting topic and thought-provoking because I haven't given it a lot of thought. So thank you for the invite and thank you for bringing this important topic to the forefront and sharing with others. So myself, I have been married for 27 years this August to my amazing wife, Fabiana, and I'm a proud dad and father of two sons who are equally amazing. Our oldest, Nick, is 22, and our youngest, Luca, is 20 years old. And just couldn't be happier to be a proud dad and have such a great family.
Well, good for you. Well, when you think about the early stages of your career, how did you navigate fatherhood while also managing to build that career and the demands of your retail leadership role?
This was a really interesting question when you posed it because, and I have to be really honest and transparent. The first thoughts that came to my mind are that I didn't navigate the early stages of fatherhood as well as I probably wish that I had. I became a father while managing a retail leadership role. And again, it was over 20 years ago that we've talked about. So I would consider myself falling into some of the maybe the old school thinking around work first, family second, and I really regret that as I think about it now. And to be honest, even back then, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure that even if the companies I had worked for had policies or had parental leaves or things like that,
Mhm.
I'm not sure that I would have taken advantage of them because I thought maybe I couldn't take advantage of them. And I also think about I know that I worked way more hours in a day or a week that was required, one out of pure necessity around getting the job done, but also obligations and feeling pressure that if I didn't work those hours and didn't get as much as I had, needed to get done, that it could impact my work and my career. So that comes at a cost to your family. And I know and I thought and I can remember, prioritizing work trips and work events over family activities and things like sports and plays and recitals. And I made plenty of them, but I missed plenty of them as well. And but that said, I also don't consider myself to be a bad dad, and I hope that my sons would back me up on that. It's only really just that now as I reflect back and think about it, I also see now emerging trends in corporate America and shifting priorities and values, especially with younger generations of working dads, that I really wish had been more present at that time. So that's how I'm thinking about it right now as you pose that question.
Absolutely, because back then there wasn't a lot of policies and procedures, particularly for dads, and it's a shame because when you think about it, like you said, you just kept working and trying to balance it both. You were kind of forced into that. So thinking about that, were there any moments, pivotal moments in your career where, you were most influenced and experienced as a father? You felt like you were kind of taking a look at the lens of fatherhood as well, as shaping your leadership style. Can you think about, what fatherhood did to help shape your leadership style?
Yeah, I think one, being a parent first and foremost has helped me and given me a heightened empathy and understanding for my team members in general, and especially those juggling parenthood and their professions, and doubly so, especially the moms and the new moms working on my team. So that's something that I think being a parent
Mm.
helps me in having that empathy and awareness. Importantly, I think some of the exposure that I've had to deep kind of conscious and purpose-led leadership and concepts and programs that I've had the benefit of being part of in my role and in corporate America has really helped me also to be a better dad. And I noticed and I've seen leaders that often show up differently at home than with our families. And sometimes it's going through those leadership developments and inner self developments that help you realize that sometimes we don't show up the same way at work as we show up at home. And sometimes it's like maybe we aren't showing up as patient with our families, especially kids and especially with our teenagers. And so I would definitely say that being a father has helped me be a better leader, and just as being a leader and having the benefit of some of the leadership development that I've had has hopefully definitely made me a better husband and a better father.
Fantastic. So that's a little bit of the balance of balancing your leadership style as a parent and your leadership style at work. Were there ever times you felt in this balancing, the other part of the balance is where did you felt you had to choose between family and the career? And, how did you make those decisions? Because they're tough ones. What did you learn from them now that you reflect back? But just thinking about those balances, were you balanced? Did you balance it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, it's an incredible struggle, right? And I really kind of gave some thought to this one as well. And thought like deeply about this. And I'll start with, a career to many of us, and I know myself included, is oftentimes closely associated with our own identity and feeling of importance and confidence. And sometimes that's too much so, but I think it's a reality and one that often weighs on us just as humans. And there's a lot of societal pressure put on uh, your level of work and your self-worth and success being tied to your career and the importance of the roles that you have. So that said, I think there's also a very real and likely and even more important weight on those who are the primary and sole financial providers for a family, that there's this pressure, and the pressure only mounts when you have children, and the pressure to provide for your family is very real as well. So when you factor those two things, I think about times that I had to choose between career and family, and what comes to mind first and foremost is decisions that I felt I had to make to provide for my family, more so than and even for my own gratification. But that drive to provide for your family is very real, and that can definitely be part of um, challenging that balance. And one example in my career when I had to make a conscious choice and decision on prioritizing work over family was when I actually joined my most recent role. I had to relocate to take the job. And instead of moving everyone right away, I actually commuted for 2 years. And partially that was to not disrupt the kids at a pivotal moment in schooling. Um, and also I needed to make sure it was the right fit before I moved my entire family. The 2 year part wasn't intended; it just was circumstantial that it took that long. But that was one of the hardest moments in my career because the job was the biggest challenge I had faced yet, and at the same time I was separated from separated most of the time from my support structure, which was my wife and my kids, and also our friend group. So I
Mhm.
don't think I had a choice, and I'm so happy that I did make the choice I did. It was hard, but in the end, it's been the best career move that I've ever made, the most fulfilling job, the best company, and the family. We also grew together, and our family's thriving now. And I know that we're closer as a family, and I think my boys are closer and better friends together as part of that move. So I do think there's also this piece that of advice is that, uh, you know, everyone needs to make decisions for themselves and what's
Mhm.
best for them and their family. But I also think sometimes when you have to make hard decisions that disrupt family situations, that it can still be okay. And in reality, an important growth opportunity that may arise, you could lose out on that if you're restricting and solely and not open to making change. And I know that that's a dilemma that many folks face, and it just kind of goes back to again situation and personal values to help find what's right for you and your family.
Right. Well, I know Whole Foods Market is glad you made that decision to make it right for your family because I think that by doing that, it's helped you now get things settled, like you said, in balance. But that was a not just so much balancing as it was a big sacrifice for you and your family to make that decision to live, remotely for two
Yeah,
years. And like you said, that support system at work we know we count on, but also at home. And so I really, yeah, I give you credit for that of making sure that it's going to work out for everybody before you decided it's going to work out for you.
right.
So that's very unselfish, Mike. I think it's great. So, what advice, thinking of this, because you've got some great wisdom after going through some of this, what advice would you give to men in retail who are currently raising a family and striving for growth in the careers? There may be some people that you work with now but just, how do you balance it now? It wasn't easy,
Sure.
obviously, 20 years ago. Maybe some things are easier, and we'll get to that. But for right now, what advice would you give?
Well, yeah, I think one thing that's important that I would say is to make time for your personal and your own professional development because it's already demanding enough with work. It's very demanding with family, but make time for your own personal and professional development, especially with regards to strengthening your inner self. I think that that's really important to, be as healthy as you can be on the inside and out. Because if you are, you're going to be a better father and you're also going to be better in your role as a leader. The other thing that I think is helpful that I've been exploring, even just recently, is to identify your own purpose and your own values and really do some work on that to identify that. And the reason is that if you have a strong sense of who you are and what your purpose is and how you want to bring that to life, it's really powerful. And it can also, help ground you in what's important, including making time for your family and having good work-life balance. Um, then I would say really find purpose-led companies to work for, companies that believe in creating environments where you can show up and be your authentic self, where being a dad and taking time to be a dad and a good partner is encouraged. And I think those things are very important that I would recommend for any young potential fathers out there.
I think that sounds great. And I think the fact that you have your own values as a parent and, as a leader and being able to set the boundaries, but at the same time, make sure that you have them and at the forefront. Are there any memories that come out of being that father? And, I think that when I've been doing these interviews, I know that father has really been probably the most proud moment for a lot of the retailers. So, just thinking about those with holding true on your values and how's that worked out for you on some proud dad moments that you could share?
Sure. I mean, there's so many proud dad moments and it's hard to think, over a span of having children that are now in their 20s. But maybe the, one that comes to mind is that both of my sons are Eagle Scouts.
Hmm.
And to become an Eagle Scout, and those that are familiar in scouting, is a lot of hard work and dedication. But you also learn a lot of practical skills, but leadership skills. Um, with both of my sons becoming Eagle Scouts throughout the years and going through scouting, I also supported them and took leadership roles in scouting. And so I had front row seat to be able to take some of the leadership skills that I've learned in corporate America to bring those in and help not only my sons but other young boys to young men achieve their goals through scouting, which hopefully will help them achieve further goals now as they go on and find careers and start families for themselves. So I do think that that's a moment of pride, but one that also has intersection between my personal life and what I've learned in my professional life.
Absolutely, that's good. And I am the proud wife of an Eagle Scout too. And I think
Hey,
it brought a lot of values that we have, especially when we're hiking, right?
yeah.
Getting some of
I mean, you just
those
start a
real life events.
fire.
No, but I think that, looks sounds like we're going to have a couple strong leaders that take over that Van Lente coming out of college and probably going into college and finishing up their degrees now. But we'll look forward to the next series of what's going on with them in 10 years. But
Yeah.
right now, I think just the last question I have is, you've been in retail a long time, Mike. You've been in now with the position that you hold with Whole Foods, and it's you have high influence on a lot of leadership, development, and development of the company. What's important? What um, do you feel retail organizations better, not just Whole Foods Market, just the industry can do to help working fathers in leadership roles today when when they're raising children and just try to, like you said, being inclusive and being authentic and bringing their whole self to work? How do we help them bring that whole self to work and make it easier for them in the retail industry?
Yeah, and I'll talk a little about my current situation and then tie that in. And I think there are two things I really appreciate about my current employer. From a policy standpoint, I really appreciate that we have parental paid leave that extends to fathers. And I didn't get to take advantage of that for my family, but I'm really happy that it's there for the new fathers on my team, especially for all the parents on my team, but also that it can extend to the fathers on my team. I also appreciate that we have an option to take sabbatical or apply for a sabbatical for an unpaid leave. And I think that that's an interesting option that not all organizations offer, but I think is important to have out there. But the critical component to this, besides having a policy or a program, is having a company culture and supportive leaders that embrace the policies and the programs and give young fathers the psychological safety to take advantage of the policies that allow for time off to support the family. In my old school days, I don't think I would have even considered taking those leaves due to what I might have perceived as the stigma that might come from a man asking to take a leave to support his family, and that's one of those areas that I really regret. But I think in today's current
Mm.
situation, it's shifting, and I know as a leader, I really support the young men on my team who have and or who would make that determination. And because I think it's so important that men can be caregivers and also receive that joy of being more present with their children. You can't get that time back, and time does go by so fast, as we've talked about. Next, thing you know, your kids are graduating from college and they're grown and leaving the nest, and you don't want to look back and have those regrets. And so I do think that that's important, that while companies can have those programs, we really have to support it as leaders, and the company needs to support it in the culture to make it known that it's okay to make time for your family. And in the end, that's a win-win, right? Because again, it's a
Absolutely.
very limited amount of time, but that happiness and what it brings to the team members going to pay off tenfold in their engagement and their loyalty to the company.
No, I couldn't agree more. And make them more productive because it's less off their
Absolutely.
shoulders, a little bit less off their plate to know that they're working for a company that understands that. Mike, this has been tremendous. I really appreciate getting to know you a little bit more, but also having you share with all of our readers, the great insights you have as a retail leader and as a father. I want to take this time to wish you a very happy Father's Day. I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to connecting soon.
Well, thank you very much, Mary Beth. I enjoyed the conversation, and I also want to wish all those dads out there a happy Father's Day as well. Thank you.
Fantastic.